Let me tell you something right now. In the end, you're going to understand your power, but by then everything will already be different. Because silence is not nothing. Silence is loud. Silence speaks in ways words never can. And when you go silent, oh, trust me, he hears it. Now let's break this down day by day. The moment you suddenly go silent, it creates an immediate shift in his world, even if he doesn't openly admit it. On the first day, confusion is the strongest emotion he feels. He's used to a certain pattern with you, your messages, your presence, your attention. And when that pattern breaks, it disrupts his sense of normal. At first, he may try to brush it off and tell himself it's nothing serious. He might think you're just busy or caught up with something else, but deep down, he knows something has changed. That small absence starts to feel noticeable, like a missing piece in his daily routine. He checks his phone more than usual, even if he won't admit he's expecting a message from you. Every notification becomes a moment of anticipation, followed by a slight disappointment when it's not you. He may even go back and look at your previous conversations, trying to figure out if he missed something or said something wrong. The silence forces him to think, and that's where its real power begins. When you're constantly present, he doesn't have to question anything, but when you pull back, his mind starts filling in the gaps. He begins to wonder why things feel different and why your energy is no longer reaching him the same way. Even if he tries to distract himself, that thought lingers in the background. He's subtle at first, but it's there. He starts to realize how much he was used to your attention without even appreciating it fully. The comfort he once felt now turns into uncertainty. He may not act on it immediately, but internally he's already reacting. That's the thing about silence. It doesn't need effort to be noticed. It naturally creates curiosity and emotional movement. On that first day, he's not panicking, he's not chasing yet, but he's definitely thinking. And sometimes, thinking is the beginning of everything, because once a person starts questioning your absence, they've already started feeling your importance in a way they didn't before. By the second day, what started as simple confusion begins to grow into something deeper, something harder for him to ignore. It's no longer just a passing thought in the back of his mind, it's becoming a feeling he carries throughout the day. He notices that you still haven't reached out, and now it starts to bother him in a way he didn't expect. The silence feels intentional, even if he doesn't fully understand why. He begins to check his phone more frequently, almost subconsciously, hoping to see your name pop up. Every time it doesn't, that small sense of unease grows stronger. His mind starts replaying your last interactions, going over conversations again and again, trying to find clues. He wonders if he said something wrong, if he missed a sign, or if there was a moment he should have handled differently. This is where curiosity slowly turns into concern. Before, he could brush it off as you being busy, but now that explanation feels less convincing. 2 days without hearing from you creates a gap that he can't easily explain away. At the same time, his emotions begin to shift. There's a subtle tension building inside him, because he's no longer in control of the situation. When communication is consistent, there's a sense of predictability, but your silence removes that comfort. Now he's left guessing, and that uncertainty starts to affect him more than he expected. He may try to distract himself with work, friends, or other activities, but the thought of you keeps coming back, interrupting his focus. What really starts to happen here is that your absence becomes noticeable in a meaningful way. It's not just that you're quiet. It's that your energy is missing. He begins to feel the difference between having you there and not having you there. That realization creates a quiet pressure, pushing him to think more seriously about your connection. Even if he hasn't reached out yet, the idea is forming in his mind. He's starting to care about the silence, and once someone starts caring, they're already emotionally involved, whether they admit it or not. By the third day, the silence is no longer something he can ignore or casually explain away. It starts turning into a feeling he can actually recognize, and that feeling is missing you. What was once confusion and then concern now becomes emotional awareness. He begins to notice the absence in a more personal way. It's not just that you haven't texted or called, it's that something meaningful is no longer there, and he can feel that gap in moments when he least expects it. He might find himself thinking about you during random parts of his day, when he sees something that reminds him of you, when he has a thought he would normally share with you, or when he simply feels the quiet where your presence used to be. Those little habits, the small interactions that once felt normal, now stand out because they're gone. And that's when it starts to hit him that your presence wasn't just routine, it actually mattered. At this point, he begins to emotionally connect with your absence. He starts to miss the way you made him feel, the attention you gave, the consistency you brought into his life. What he may have once taken for granted now feels valuable because it's no longer easily available. That's the shift. People often don't measure value when something is constant, but when it disappears, its importance becomes clear. There's also a sense of realization that slowly builds. He starts to understand that you were adding something to his life that he didn't fully acknowledge before. Your silence forces him to sit with that truth. Even if he tries to stay busy or act unaffected on the outside, internally there's a growing awareness that he misses you, and that missing feeling is not something he can easily shake off. He may begin to feel a pull toward reaching out, but he's still processing his emotions. It's no longer just about curiosity or concern. It's about feeling your absence on an emotional level. And once someone reaches that point where they genuinely miss you, the dynamic has already started to change in a powerful way. By the fourth day, and the situation inside him becomes more complicated because now it's not just about how he feels. It's about how he handles those feelings. This is where his ego steps in and starts to interfere with what his emotions are clearly telling him. On one side, he misses you, he's thinking about you, and there's a growing urge to reach out and break the silence. But on the other side, his pride begins to question everything. He starts asking himself why he should be the one to make the move, especially when he's noticed that you haven't reached out at all. This creates an internal conflict that he can't easily resolve. His emotions are pulling him towards you, reminding him of your absence and how much he feels it, while his ego is trying to protect his sense of control. He may think, if she cared, she would have texted me by now, or why should I be the one chasing? These thoughts don't come from a lack of feeling. They come from a place of pride and self-protection. He doesn't want to appear weak or too invested, even though deep down he's already affected. At this stage, your silence becomes more powerful because it forces him to sit with both his emotions and his pride at the same time. There's no easy distraction, no quick reassurance from you, no message to balance things out. It's just him, his thoughts, and the growing tension between what he feels and what he believes he should do. That tension can be uncomfortable, and the longer it lasts, the more it pushes him to confront the reality of how much your presence meant to him. He may start checking your social media, looking for signs, and trying for clarity to understand what you're doing or how you're feeling without directly asking. He's searching for some kind of clue that can help him make sense of the situation without risking his ego. But the truth is, the silence keeps him guessing, and that uncertainty keeps his mind locked on you. This is the moment where the dynamic truly shifts, because now it's no longer just about missing you. It's about him realizing that he might have to step out of his comfort zone if he wants to reconnect. And that realization challenges both his pride and his emotions in a way he can't ignore. His thoughts are no longer occasional. They become constant, and overthinking starts to take control of his mind. What began as simple curiosity has now turned into a deeper mental spiral where he's trying to make sense of everything without having any real answers. Your silence has created a space that his mind is now desperately trying to fill, and the more he thinks, the more intense it becomes. He starts asking himself questions that he can't easily resolve, and each question leads to another, pulling him deeper into uncertainty. He begins to imagine different scenarios, and some logical and some driven purely by emotion. He may wonder if you've lost interest completely, if you've decided to move on, or if there's someone else now getting the attention he once had. Even if none of these things are true, the lack of communication leaves room for his imagination to take over, and that's where overthinking becomes powerful. The human mind doesn't like unanswered questions, so it creates its own answers, and often those answers lean toward fear or doubt. At this point, he also starts to reflect on his own actions more seriously. He thinks about how he treated you, the effort he gave, and whether he might have taken you for granted. The silence forces him to see things from a different perspective, one where he no longer feels in control. That loss of control adds pressure, because now he's not just thinking about you, he's thinking about what he might have lost. Emotionally, this stage can feel heavy for him. There's a mix of missing you, questioning himself, and worrying about what your silence really means. He may try to distract himself, but the thoughts keep returning stronger each time. Even small things can trigger memories of you, are pulling him right back into that cycle of overthinking. The longer the silence continues, the more it amplifies everything inside his mind. It's no longer just about your absence. It's about what that absence represents. And when someone reaches this point where their thoughts are consumed and their emotions are unsettled, they are no longer indifferent. They are fully affected, whether they choose to admit it or not. Beyond, everything becomes clear to him in a way it wasn't before. The confusion, the curiosity, the overthinking, all of it settles into one undeniable realization: your absence has real value and he can feel it deeply. And this is the stage where your silence is no longer just something he's reacting to, it becomes something he understands. He starts to see the full picture of what your presence brought into his life, not just in small moments, but in the overall way it made him feel. He begins to recognize that you were more than just someone who was there. You were someone who added meaning, attention, and emotional consistency. Without that, things feel different, and that difference is now impossible for him to ignore. What he once may have overlooked or assumed would always be there now feels rare and important. This realization doesn't come all at once, but once it settles in, it stays with him. At this point, respect starts to form in a deeper way. Your silence shows him that you are capable of stepping back, and that you are not dependent on constant communication, and that you value yourself enough to create distance when needed. That kind of energy shifts how he sees you. It makes him understand that your presence is something that should be appreciated, not taken lightly. And when respect grows, the way he thinks about you begins to change as well. There's also a sense of emotional weight that comes with this realization. He understands that if he doesn't act, he could lose you completely. That thought brings a different kind of pressure, one that is no longer driven by confusion or ego, but by the awareness of consequences. He may start to think seriously about reaching out, not just to break the silence, but to reconnect in a more meaningful way. At the same time, if he chooses not to act, that realization can turn into regret. Because once someone truly understands your value after experiencing your absence, they also understand what it means to lose it. And that feeling doesn't fade easily. It stays as a reminder of what was once there and what is no longer within reach. Because when you're always there, always available, always giving, people get comfortable. But when you step away, that's when they wake up. So if you're going silent, don't do it halfway. Don't do it hoping for a reaction. Do it because you know your worth. Do it because you understand that your energy is valuable. And remember what I told you at the beginning: in the end, you're going to understand your power. The real question is, will he understand your value before it's too late?